Hello everyone, I'm pleased to introduce you to our group work for Making a Difference course. The group work was conducted by By Uotila, Tuisk and myself, Tuisk and Valkama, and we have put together a presentation covering 3 companies with special focus on their circular performance. In this presentation we will firstly introduce the 3 companies, then compare their circular approach. After this, we will further shed light on which instance leads the circularity in these companies and which kind of partners they collaborate with. In addition to this, we will also provide recommendation on how can these companies improve their circular performance. And finally, we will take a look at Finland's position in the light of circular economy as well, and provide suggestions on how could we improve in that regard. So, let's move on to the brief introductions of the companies. Firstly, Swappie is a Finnish startup founded in 2016. Its business idea is to acquire, repair and resell old Apple iPhones. Thus, they are able to prolong the smartphone's life cycle and avoid losing hard-to-come-by materials that are found in those phones. Their mission is to offer environmentally friendly smartphone option and provide a trustworthy partner for the purchase of old phones. Swappie has been based on an already circular foundation and according to Citra manages to be 100% circular.
Our second company is Finlayson. Finlayson's business idea is to design and manufacture of household textiles. It was founded in 1820 in Finland and it got new owners 2014. At the same time, its brand was also renewed and they have now focused on corporate responsibility. Finlayson's target is to change the way how companies normally operate in textile industry. Their values are: we are responsible, we are bold, we take interest in the world. Finlayson has several vendors and their products are mainly manufactured in Europe and Turkey.
Our third company, founded in 1973, Patagonia, is an environmentally conscious company which designs and sells outdoor clothing. The company was established in the United States. Patagonia's founder, climber Yvon Chouinard, set up a business to allow people to wander the wild areas with appropriate and quality clothes. As the company grew, Yvon decided that the company must be involved in conserving wildlife. Thus, from the very first days, the company has been responsible and has invested in sustainability. Nowadays, Patagonia's employees are hired based on their responsible values. And activism is also a prominent part of the company. Workers are asked to be vigilant and report any radical changes in the surrounding ecosystems.
Next, let's move on to considering the circular business models and strategies of these companies. Firstly, Swappie buys iPhones either directly from the customers or from other companies to keep the supply steady. They pay customers for their phones and thus creates 2 incentives for customers for engaging in their circular model. Primarily, the fact that Swappie pays for a phone that has no use for the customer anymore gives a reason to go through the effort to actually send it to the company. Secondarily, the fact that Swappie pays customers based on the phone's condition creates an incentive to keep the phones in good condition as well. This in turn makes Swappie's job easier as there is less to fix. Secondly, Finlayson, although an old company, has only adopted circular elements to its strategy from 2015 onwards. These changes were introduced shortly after the change of ownership. The actual strategy is closely linked to the 5 of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, these being climate action, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, decent work and economic growth, and responsible consumption and production. In addition to the strategy, Finlayson has also engaged in concrete action with introduction of products from recycled materials and they intend to increase the use of those materials in the future. Thirdly, Patagonia is also a purpose-based business like Swappie. The circular loops are closed as the used clothes can be sent back for repair and reselling. In turn, a voucher is provided for the price of the cloth for the customer. The clothes are designed to last a lifetime, which logically makes them more pricey but more durable than the benchmark items in the fast fashion industry. Their marketing also reflects their long-term approach, as they do not advertise in TV, but instead use brand ambassadors. The carefully chosen ambassadors reflect more the values of the company rather than actively sell more clothes. Next, let's take a look on the circular solutions these companies provide. Firstly, Swappie has adopted a mail-in take-back system, which means that customers can send the phones to Swappie via mail. By repairing the phones, Swappie can prolong the lifetime on average from 1.8 years to 4.5, which means that phones stay in use 2.5 times longer. By cutting the middleman when working directly with customer, they are able to shorten the supply chain and thus cut waste. Secondly, Finlayson has introduced a corporate responsibility manager, which means that Finlayson is actively trying to strive towards circular goals and have people overseeing this progress. They realize that most of the circular elements actually exist in their supply chain outside of the company itself. That is why they nowadays work with audited suppliers only. Finlayson engages in 5-year plans to improve their circularity. Back in 2015, they had plans to reduce packaging waste and cut down CO2 emissions by 20% by year 2020. They also had plans to use 30% of production from recycled materials also by 2020. They are on course to achieve both of these goals and look to improve in the future as well. Thirdly, Patagonia has introduced a Worn initiative, which includes launching a second-hand store for used Patagonia clones online. They also are willing to share their production techniques to help competitors and industry to be more responsible in the future. This is also highlighted in their recruitment process, as the employees are hired based on their values and activism rather than relying solely on their expertise. Lastly, if we take into consideration how these companies compare to one another, we can point out multiple similarities and points of differences as well. Swappie and Patagonia have been purpose-based business from the very beginning, but on the other hand, Finlayson, being a 200-year-old company, wasn't naturally based on a circular business model. They have had to adopt circular themes along the way, which requires significant effort. Over time, he's turned into burden regarding circularity. Swappie and Patagonia don't have to go to such drastic lengths to justify their existence, which is not the case for Finlayson. Importantly, all three companies have adopted take-back systems, thus closing the circularity loops. Along with those take-back systems, they provide incentives to initiate engagement from customers to participate. In a similar fashion, all companies have focused on quality in their products and thus prolonging the product life. But Patagonia stands out from the rest from the two others, being more of a charitable organization. Swappie and Finlayson are honest businesses with intentions to generate profits for their owners. Patagonia, in the other hand, constantly puts its values first and uses its profits to help environmental causes. Earth could be considered Patagonia's primary shareholder.
Of our selected companies, Swappie and Patagonia have based their operations on the circular economy and sustainable development from the beginning. In both companies, circularity is led by ownership. That's why there is no special department of sustainability. In contrast, at Finlayson, sustainability and responsibility became important for the strategy of the company quite recently, in 2014, after a change of management. Today, sustainability is a significant part of Finlayson's brand and marketing strategy. The company has its own corporate responsibility manager, and the current CEO, By Uotila, is active in public discussions. Let's take a look at our chosen company's business partners. For example, Swappie is partnering with companies who deliver them phones. Certain number of phones are also purchased directly from private individuals. Additionally, in Finland, shipping is done through mail, but elsewhere through a carrier. Other than that, Swappie has no concrete business partners. Finlayson, on the other hand, has many partners. They are collaborating, for example, with Belgian post-consumer recycled cotton and denim company ESG. In addition, they buy recycled packaging material from Repack, which is packaging service enabling to return and reuse of delivery packaging for online retailers and their users. Finlayson has also tried to find partners from India. They intend to procure PET plastic, which is usually sourced from bottles. Patagonia tries to use raw materials that cause as little harm as possible, and for this reason, since 2000 they work with blue design technologies to assess and to reduce the resources consumption in their own supply chain and to receive support in chemical substances management, into dye producers and in finishing the employed fabrics. These companies have a lot of differences in their circular economy strategy, but one thing is common to them. All companies buy products back from their customers. Swappie buys used phones, Finlayson buys jeans and gives a voucher for it, and Patagonia buys its clothes back if they can no longer be repaired. As presented in previous slides, in our companies, the circular economy is a very important part of the strategy, if not the leading one. For Swappie and Patagonia, circular economy represents a market change, supporting the transition towards a sustainable economy, and at the same time it creates an opportunity for profitable business. While in Finlayson, it is a result of changes in megatrends, which correctly implemented brings competitive advantage to the company. The companies we have chosen have achieved a lot of good within the circular economy, but we also have suggestions for improvement related to the business. Swappie currently has only iPhones for sales, which we see as a small risk in the long run. Even the Apple as a brand is likely to have the best profit margins and secure customer segments. We suggest Swappie to broaden its own portfolio and widen the business to other brands as well. It is not excluded that Apple could start recycling their own products. In addition, the company could start collaborating with a Dutch company called Fairphone, which manufactures modular smartphones in accordance with the principles of sustainable development. On Fairphones, users can easily change spare parts themselves, so both companies could perhaps break down the phones before recycling them and use the intact parts for spare parts, and possibly to trade for spare parts. Finlayson, on the other hand, could increase the amount of recycled materials in their production. Currently, 30% of their production are made from recycled material. In addition, they could provide recycling opportunities for other materials besides the jeans. Finlayson has enough expertise to do that. Thus, our concrete proposal is to add several new recycle change to different textiles. The company also has a strong voice and influence in public debates. It should promote their circular economy in public debates and within the textile sector. especially share the knowledge of circularity with their partners and vendors. Patagonia, on the other hand, would be worth finding partners which provide sustainable produced materials. We believe that recycled materials can also be sourced from poorer countries, and usually there is also supply and demand when the price is right. Thus, Patagonia should create new supply chains in the least developed countries. The company should also be more active in non-domestic markets. For example, a campaign to repair clothes should also be in Europe, as Patagonia's customer base is constantly growing. Our joint recommendation to all companies is to constantly look for new companies focused on recyclable materials and to establish cooperations with them.
Circular economy in Finland. Sitra has created 2016 a circular economy roadmap for Finland, which has 5 focus areas. 1. A sustainable food system. The target is that the consumers will consume food that has been produced with a wiser use of raw materials that starts in primary agricultural production, and nutrients are recycled. 2. Forest-based loops. Its target is that the forest industry's global competitiveness will increase with new commercial products, services, cooperation models, and digital technology. 3. Technical loops. Technical loops will be gained by minimizing the use of virgin raw materials and maximizing the length of material. Product life cycles will create competitive edge. 4. Transport and logistic. The target is that the transport will develop into seamless, smart systems that uses fossil-free fuels. 5. Joint national actions. It means that the legislators, companies, universities and research institutes, as well as consumers and citizens, and vibrant regions are all needed to achieve systemic change. Finnish government has committed to support circular economy, and it can be seen, for example, in budget proposal for 2021. The target is that Finland is carbon neutral by 2035, and related to this target, there are actions in budget proposal for 2021. The industrial electricity tax will be lowered to the minimum rate allowed by EU. Taxation on heating fuels such as coal, natural gas and fuel oil will be increased. Support for industries transition to emission-free technologies. Support adaptation by pet entrepreneurs and pet workers who will lose their livelihood, and extensive business diversification in the affected areas. Allocate investments in agriculture that reduce climate emissions from agriculture and increase carbon sinks, while also developing the operating environment of the sector. Support for transition to lower emission transport by implementing at the start of 2021 the tax reform concerning employment-related transport benefits. It can be said that Finland is frontrunner in circular economy. Finland was the first country in the world that created a national roadmap to a circular economy. It was made by Finnish innovation fund Sitra. Sitra also won the public sector category of the Circulars, awarded at the World Economic Forum in Davos 2018. Finland is also developing the circular economy globally. The World Circular Economy Forum was held in Helsinki 2019. Some examples about Finland's actions related to circular economy. Aalto University News from 2019. Small Finland is a big player in the circular economy of metals. Finland was chosen to lead the strategic planning for battery recycling in Europe. Two key reasons for this achievement are the high-level research carried out in Finland and the loop cooperation within the sector. Thus, news from 2020. On 2019, representatives of the Russian regions visited Finland to learn more about advanced technologies in such as waste processing, recycling, and renewable energy. They took a close look at Finland's circular economy and discussed the prospects for cooperation. An example about cooperation with EU is Arctic Industry and Circular Economy Clusters, which is an EU-funded regional project which supports the competitiveness and growth of small and medium-sized service businesses in industry and mining in Lapland, Finland. The aim is to promote the sustainable refining of natural resources and recovered secondary raw materials through multidisciplinary cooperation clusters of businesses. The project has already promoted several sustainable pilots in the region. There is also concrete actions in the Ministry for Foreign Affairs of Finland. Example of this joint project between Finland and African Development Bank and Sitra, which aims to support the mainstreaming of circular economy solutions in African countries. The objective of the impact level is to help convert production and consumption on the continent into a circular economy. But are we globally frontrunners also in the future? Finland is so small economy globally that for being global frontrunner we cannot only rely on actions we do in Finland. It will require us to be an example country for others. We need to show how to create and implement circular economy plans in action. With Finland's good reputation and high level of education and innovation, we could be the spokesperson for circular economy also globally. As said, Finland has a good reputation globally, but good plans are not enough. Plans need to be implemented also, and for being frontrunner in the future, more actions are needed from government to support implementation. Change is required from companies and also from individual persons and citizens, but it cannot happen without political decisions. Guiding legislation such as taxation, for example, on heating fuels, transport and products is needed that companies and citizens will change the behavior. Support for transition for those whose livelihoods are depending on current technologies and industries. For being a front also in the future, political decisions are needed to support education, research and innovation for enabling inventing better ways for achieving circular economy in Finland and globally.